Good morning, Guardians and Runners. We are finding ourselves in quite the interesting time with Marathon literally around the corner and Destiny delivering some of the most disappointing yet hopeful news. Please join me today and we'll discuss the future of Destiny, Marathon, and our little channel. Let's start with the most painful news. Destiny's Shadow and Order update, originally scheduled for March 3rd, has been officially delayed to June. For an update that was supposed to be comparable to Ash and Iron, a 3-month delay is gigantic. We were anticipating the next full expansion by June, so this puts everything into a delayed status and leaves players with very little content for 3 more months. Bungie is expanding the scope of this update to include things like weapon tier upgrades, tiered gear for all raids and dungeons, tier 5 stats for exotic armor, and Pantheon 2.0. If this update had been Ash and Iron, I think it could have shifted the needle of player sentiment, but now, a year later, we're going to turn tier 3 drops into tier 5s anyways, farm our 10th Fatebringer, and target farm the armor pieces we just replaced in Edge of Fate. But hey, Pantheon 2 will be fun. Your friends and clanmates probably aren't going to be convinced to return, so good luck getting 6 of the boys together for it, but it'll be there. Unfortunately, I think it's just too little too late to prevent burnout for a huge chunk of the population. But let's be honest, if Shadow and Order dropped, and it was the exact same content schedule as Ash and Iron, would literally anyone have been happy? Equilibrium, Lawless Frontier, and the Renegades campaign all did well and were great to play through, but I don't think a new Portal activity would be anywhere near comparable. So yes, it's sad to see a delay, but isn't it probably a good thing long term? I'd rather get fewer good updates than a million mediocre ones. Not to mention, the worst expansions were always the ones that were on time, and delayed expansions tend to be remembered well. Both the Final Shape and the Witch Queen were delayed and were amazing expansions. Meanwhile, Lightfall and Edge of Fate were on time, and we saw how those went. As a side note, I've been playing Diablo 4 and Diablo 2 all week, and it's been an absolute blast. While playing their new seasons, I felt how I used to feel booting up Destiny. Excited to grind out 100 rolls of one weapon to feel the satisfaction of uninstalling a boss. Why then, after 10 years, is Diablo still able to feel interesting when Destiny's stagnated? And that's when it hit me. Destiny's become incredibly deterministic and permanent. This loot has put a limit on how much you need to play to have every item. Since power creep is slow in Destiny, there's little to no incentive to farm your 6th Volt Shot SMG or hand cannon with explosive payload. You don't need your 5th solar rocket with envious bait. As much as the tier system changed, it didn't make your crafted Fatebringer with explosive payload frenzy worse than the tier 5 Fatebringer with explosive payload frenzy that will be. And let's talk about how easy it is to get god rolls these days. On a weapon with 6 perks in columns 3 and 4, a tier 5 drop has a 25% chance of having your god roll perk combination. That's an average of 4 drops to finish grinding a gun. Before, when your guns dropped 1 perk in each column, you'd have a 2.7% chance or an average of 1 in 36 to get the same roll. Even crafting red borders were like 20% chance for 1/5 of the red borders you needed for like an average of 25 drops. This and your exotics being guaranteed by purchasing them, knockout elimination, and quest means anyone who has played somewhat casually over the last 5 years is unlikely to be missing even a single non-raid exotic weapon. So maybe we could use a soft reset or a hard reset. I wouldn't be opposed to a 2 or 3 year hiatus to get Destiny 3 out, or maybe take a page out of the ARPG playbook and make us a seasonal server where every drop is just full RNG, no duplicate protection, where some bosses have a higher chance to drop specific items, and give us one legacy raid and dungeon each season that gets to contest mode with a leaderboard for the first 100 clears and for the fastest 100% clears. Let people scramble to make a raid team off full RNG exotic drops. Maybe it'd be fun. Moving into Marathon, we are literally on the doorstep with Server Slam going live Thursday at 1 p.m. EST and running until next Monday at 1 p.m. EST. I'll be joining late Thursday afternoon as I'm going to be at work at 1 p.m. and Friday as well, but all weekend we're going to be live grinding to level 30 for the best day 1 launch bonus. I'll have a video going live Thursday morning for all of you to watch while you download the game. Looking forward to the Slam, launch, and beyond, I want to discuss a couple of my expectations and hopes, and I'd love to hear your feedback on these. First, let's start with my actual expectations. I think we're going to see a pretty healthy server slam this weekend. Interest seems high, so I think we'll see around 100k concurrent on Steam at some point. The average I'd expect is probably closer to 60k once we get into the full launch, and I think there will be a lot of people who are trying the game at different times, but it will be more volatile PvP-wise due to Ark having a consistent PvE focus, and that's going to push a lot of people out. I do fully expect a mostly positive reception to the test, with a large asterisk of it's not for everyone. Then on launch day, I would expect a similar 100k peak, maybe somewhere closer to 120, 130k, with more consistent play times per person. 2 to 3 weeks out, I think about 50 to 60k average count would be a good spot to be in. Depending on how good the VoIP crowd is, it may climb as interest spreads up to about 80k average, but conservatively, I think new seasons are going to peak for probably about 2 to 3 weeks on average, with a consistent 50k players split between PvP heavy lobbies in ranked and more VoIPing goofy unranked lobbies. I think these kind of numbers would be pretty consistent considering it's $40 to buy the game, some microtransactions, season passes in the game. I think that 50k is a pretty healthy place for an extraction game to be. As for my hopes for the Slam, I hope solos and casuals find plenty of fun and variety in their lobbies, and that VoIP is a consistent experience. I hope to see a decently balanced weapon pool off rip, and no more than maybe one undertuned runner. If we can get 200k concurrence, that would also be really cool for the game. Going into 1.0, I'd like to see consistent communication from the devs, and fast responses to important issues. Something will need to be changed and addressed, so I'd like to see consistent avenues for player feedback, such as the in-game surveys we had in the alpha, and that to translate directly to quality of life and more balanced matches in the long term. I'd like to see a long-term commitment to customization in the forms of cosmetics and abilities. Total customization for arms, legs, chest, and headpieces, for example, and second options for tactical or prime abilities for each runner. Finally, I'd like to see a practice range or an offline testing versus bots mode for testing and learning opportunities. Last but not least, let's talk about the channel. I'm going to be uploading and streaming a large amount of marathon content on launch and post-release. Then, as I find interesting things to report on, I'll continue to do Destiny content, but I'm not going to push it and put out things that I'm not interested in. Every now and then, I'll also put up something extra as a piece of content, depending on what's taking up my free time the most. I hope to bring you all a great slew of content. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you all again very, very soon.